The Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, tabled the medium-term budget on Thursday. Is the budget pro-poor, as the minister says, while the National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union has threatened action should the National Treasury fail to table suitable wage increases in that budget? We're joined by Mike Shingange, the president of Nehawu. Mr. Shingange, thank you very much for your time. Now, the budget policy statement was somewhat overshadowed by the passing of F.W. de Klerk, but certainly deserves greater analysis and debate. Now, when it comes to policy, when we speak of Mr. Godongwana, he's actually, there's just no debate about that. That policy trajectory is that of his predecessor, Tito Mboweni. Fiscal austerity, we're servicing our debt and reining in expenditure, that's what they say. But many economists have said that in a weak economy, austerity is self-defeating. Aggregate demand falls, unemployment increases, and then we see absolutely no growth. What is your take on this route of austerity?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Fundo, and thanks for having us. We certainly agree with the analysis that says that in the economy that is not doing well, such as ours, austerity actually is self-defeating, because what you do, you choke the growth of the economy. Everywhere else in the world where the economy needs to be stimulated, austerity is certainly not the way to go. You need to increase the spending capacity of your citizens. You need to keep more people in the jobs in order for the economy to grow. When you reduce expenditure, particularly in the social expenditure, when you reduce the capacity of citizens to spend money, there's no way your economy is going to grow. So we certainly agree. In fact, it is correct that this budget is a continuation of the trajectory that the Treasury has been following over the years. But what we find it unacceptable is that they could not learn lessons from the budget that they presented in February, result of which is a 44% unemployment, result of which is the economy being in recession for worse than the 100 years that we have coming from. But also, South Africans have actually rejected the policy plans that were made in February. Our view is that they could have at least taken a detour and at least for once listen to the citizens that they govern.
But the minister went on to defend and say this is in fact a pro-poor budget. But beyond that, I mean, I've been saying to many that really a budget policy statement is very thin on numbers and more on policy trajectory. But I know that a lot of people were expecting him to pronounce on the income grants. Was that the expectation even from you, to pronounce now and not wait to perhaps consult broadly, and then in February we see the numbers?
Well, partly that is what we would have expected, but not in totality. If I was to speak as
tax falls, this tax windfalls that we had now as a result of the commodities boom, do you think perhaps they could have utilized that money better? Because I know 60 billion is going to they're going to service the debt. Were you expecting that some of the money could be used elsewhere, particularly strengthening the service sector?
Of course, we take into consideration the fact that this windfall of the tax revenue that is more than expected is actually short-term, probably in terms of their pronouncement.
Yes.
What we will have expected, we will not have expected government to cut the corporate tax from 28% to 27%, having cut it from 34% in the past few years. They should not have done so, because at a time when the economy needs more money, the rich, those who are receiving more incentives from government, firstly, are the ones who are supposed to be held accountable in terms of the number of jobs they create as a result of the subsidy they're receiving from government. But at the same time, we didn't hear anything from the Treasury about how do we manage the issue of the tax evasions, including the capital outflows that leave the country, billions and billions of rands every year that goes out of the country. There's no transactional penalties that are being imposed, or at least control on that matter. We didn't hear anything about the billions and billions that Auditor General every year says we are losing in the provincial and the municipality departments in terms of the wasteful expenditure and corruption. If we were to cap that leakages, we will not even have to increase tax, in our view, in order to make sure that we have enough resources in order to grow our economy and keep those who are working in the work and also create more jobs, including increasing the salary of those who are keeping this economy going under such difficult conditions.
Perhaps to take you back, when you speak of big business and it not being the biggest employer now, we know that small business has been the biggest employer. He touched on structural reforms, and many had been talking about perhaps more business-friendly type of policies, and as much as he was very thin on detail there, were you happy at the very least with him stating that they're looking to support SMMEs a bit more, or you think, again, it's just thin on detail, you really don't know what the policies will look like?
It's definitely thin on details, one, but also not for the first time that we hear this kind of rhetoric. In the past, we would have expected that the SMMEs, which are the indeed biggest employers in as far as the informal economy is concerned, these are the businesses that are not on investment strike, like the big corporates who are sitting with trillions in their bank, not investing in the economy, but always crying that government must create a conducive environment in order for them to invest. And government have been bending backwards over and over again towards them, but without no return from their part. We will have wanted firstly the time frames, but also more details on this thing of assisting the small business enterprises. Because even during this coronavirus, these small businesses, the informal economy, those who are found in rural, they were not the biggest beneficiaries of the government stimulus. Those ones who are well off, those ones who have got money hoarded in banks, those who have got surplus of profits are the ones who benefited from government. Even when there was a loan guarantee scheme, that guarantee did not help the poor business, the smaller businesses. It helped only those who are already established, that they know their way out in how to access this money from the banks. The rest of the small businesses could not benefit. So we really want to fast track that process of helping the small business, because those are the ones that are actually employing a lot of our people in the rural areas.
Yes, Mr. Shingange, we've run out of time, but one last question just on the SOEs. Are you happy with the minister's decision to actually place a moratorium on bailouts? Is that enough? Because Eskom is crucial for economic growth. Are we just going to leave it like that and expect them to come up with a strategy to keep afloat?
Beyond moratorium, there was no plan at all. We would have expected that the Eskom, which we have signed an energy compact ourselves as labor, business and government, should have been saying this is how much we're putting even from our own pension investment that was supposed to help the Eskom. That's one part that this budget can't be pro-poor when the poor is not going to access the energy supply. It can't be pro-poor when the things of the poor people that have stocked for the past 12 years are rotting their fridges now. So we really will have wanted more plans than just a moratorium. There was supposed to be a debt recovery plan that is said to Eskom, this is how we want you to repay your debt, and this is how we're going to assist you, and this is what we want to supply a sustainable energy to our people.
No, true. Thank you very much, Mr. Shingange, for joining us. Hopefully we will have Treasury here to speak to us and broadly just analyze that policy statement, because there have been a lot of things, developments around the passing of FW de Klerk overshadowed this very important statement by the minister, but we certainly will have them in studio soon. That's Mr. Mike Shingange, President of Nehawu, there, newly elected, talking to us.